Good evening, everyone. My name is Noelle, and I'm here with my friend Eli.
Hello.
And tonight we're going to be talking about the dynamic neural retraining system as part of the Healcast program. And Healcast is a series where I talk to different people about different healing modalities, all holistic and alternative healing modalities. And both Eli and I have been doing the dynamic neural retraining system, so we're really excited to talk about the results that we're getting, how it works, and just educate people on this incredible new paradigm in healing. And then I just want to explain a little bit about how Eli and I know each other. We're both coaches, woo woo, and we met during our coach training program.
Yep, at the Academy for Coaching Excellence. Always saying thank you to them because they've changed my life for the better. That's for sure.
Yours and mine.
Yep.
Yeah. So Eli, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Eli. I'm a life and leadership coach and creative in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I was asked by dear Noelle here to come and talk about my experiences with the dynamic neural retraining system. Do you want me to go straight into just like the healing and my story about it and all that stuff?
Yeah, well, I'm curious. I don't remember. How did you find out about the program?
Yeah, so I found out about the program through the desperation of being really sick and like looking for everything and anything possibly that would help. Mm-hmm. And then thanks to our dear friend Sarah Regenspan, she linked me up with DNRS, and I researched it, sent it to my dad, who was like my kind of primary caregiver at the time when things were really rough, and he took a look at it, and I bought it. The same day that I got the information, because I knew, like I had. I'll talk about this a bit more, but I had tracked it to my brain that like something in my brain was not working properly. And this clearly was what was working for folks for what I had going on.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you had going on and why this made sense for you.
Yeah, great. So I grabbed my little tag from my vlog, which I've done on DNRS. I'll tell you about later. Because I forget kind of how many of them I had, because it's kind of hard to remember it all.
They do pile up.
They do pile up. Yeah. So I'm coming back from severe multiple chemical sensitivities, toxic mold exposure, PTSD, chronic fatigue syndrome, anxiety, depression, food sensitivities, impaired cognitive functioning, chronic pain, and Lyme disease.
Woo!
Yeah. Checking off all the boxes.
Yeah, quite a collection.
Yeah, and so I've tried so many things to figure out what was going on with my body. Like all of the conventional testing was returning, you're as healthy as a horse. We don't know what's going on with you. So that included like herbal Lyme treatments, short-term antibiotics for Lyme. I started the Shoemaker protocol for mold. I took steroids for the multiple chemical sensitivities. I do not suggest that. It was really, really rough. Thank you to my ex-partner who was with me during that time. Thank you, and I'm sorry. I was an emotional wreck. Talk therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, this thing called QNRT, NAET, Nambudrapad's allergy elimination technique, acupuncture, pharmaceutical mood stabilizers, more supplements than I can remember and could afford. And I'm sure I'm missing stuff from that list. That was just what I came up with today off the top of my head.
Yeah. And one of the things I've always appreciated about you, Eli, is that you are willing to try everything and be really adventurous. And I'm just so glad that you finally found something that's really getting you results. Yeah,
this is the thing. Like, this is it. This is the thing that's bringing me back to 100% health. And of course, that like I'm supporting my brain to rewire itself through some natural supplements and things like that, and eating lots of blueberries and omega-3 fatty acids, right? All stuff that we know is good for the brain. But I mean, really, I'm healing through this and this alone. I'm not like treating anything else, and there's no other treatment going on.
That's pretty huge.
Yeah, it is amazing in terms of the finances alone. Us the folks with who have been trying to figure this out or working with some form of chronic illness for a long time know the drain on the pocketbook. And I had a moment of gratitude today of like, holy shit, I'm not spending $400 a month, maybe more sometimes, on doctor's appointments that are outside the outside the insurance system, and all the supplements and medications and all of that stuff. So that alone is amazing. And yeah, I mean, like I'm healing my brain through the power of focused, conscious thought. Come on, it's incredible. It's so good.
Yeah, I really appreciated this pocketbook savings as well. And so we have this unique opportunity to talk to you, Eli, because you have completed 6 months of the program. So can you say a little bit about what changes you've experienced so far? I mean, obviously you've said like this is the way that you're going to heal, but can you say a little bit about sort of what that experience has been like so far?
Yeah, it's been a trip. It's been wild. It's totally nonlinear. It's up and down. It comes in waves. And I can say that. So I'll just do like a brief what this summer was like for me. So I had kind of a tough childhood and a bunch of things that happened, concussions, some PTSD from some things when I was really young, and all of this. Right, my brain was kind of set up for this to happen. And then I had 2 major mold exposures, and one was out in California, and that's when I had MCS for the first time. Before that, it was like I couldn't do Lysol and bleach, and like that was it. And then it was like everything around me seemingly. That's when things got really tough, and I came back and I tried to figure it out for a couple of years, and then started to get better a little bit, and then had another mold exposure, and that one really, really put me in a rough spot. And just for context, so that people know, like I can kind of check off some boxes and I can say some words. Like things were really, really rough. I was kind of isolated to my home with how severe the MCS was. When I was even just outside.
You were even living in a tent for a minute there, right?
I'm getting to that. Yep.
Yeah. I just think that's like such a vivid thing for people to see. Like that's how bad it was.
Yeah, I was living in a tent in my mom's backyard. We built myself a little platform, so I was deluxe. I wasn't on the dirt, and living in a tent. And anytime that I was inside any building, I was wearing a big construction mask, the one with like the full canisters on both sides. So imagine going to the movies in that, and going to friends' parties and stuff like that. Not the best experience. Taught me a lot. Right. So things got really rough. Really rough. I couldn't work. I couldn't really do much with life. And tried a bunch of things, ended up finding out about DNRS and going like, oh, here it is. I really think this is it. And again, for context, like being in any building for more than a few breaths was really, really uncomfortable. By the 3rd day of doing DNRS, I was in my mom's home, which is a bit more fragrant than most neutral places. I was able to be in my mom's home for like 4 or 5 hours at a time without a respirator. I mean, and to go from like that before would have sent me to the emergency room. So I mean, it's amazing. It worked fairly quickly for me. Not everyone has that level of results from it right away. But I will say too that like I'm 6 months in, so I've been retraining my brain, and I'll go into a bit of kind of what the process is, in so much that I can share. I'll go into a little bit of that and the science behind it, but the results are incredible. I kind of immediately began, I knew intuitively right when I started the process that this was going to be the thing that was going to heal my brain, and I knew that it was in my brain. DNRS lays it out really well to give you a bunch of information that's accessible even for foggy brains like mine. And so yeah, I'm 6 months in now, and I expect that I'll probably be training for another 6 months. They say that it's a minimum of 6 months retraining period, and I can see myself going for a while now, and I've had some friends ask me like, wow, you've done 6 months. Are you done? I'm like, nope, no. Like I'll do this every day for the rest of my life if it gives me I want to say like my life back, but for context, I've always had some version of this since I was a kid.
Right.
And so I've never experienced life without some form of brain impairment. I'm hungry, you know what I mean? Like I'm so hungry. You're saying being willing to try a bunch of stuff. I do think that's one of the qualities that I'm really grateful that I have, is that when I really, really want something, I go for it. And yeah, I've been doing it. I've been doing it with DNRS. Today is day, what is it? When I complete another 15 minutes tonight, I will have completed 208 days in a row of 1 hour of brain training per day at minimum. Some days more than that. So.
Nice. Yeah, I want to talk to you more about how you do it, because I know I've been getting some questions on like an hour a day, like no, and so I'd love to talk to you about that.
Feel a little daunting.
Yeah, but I want to say before that, for people who are watching, we're really excited to take your questions. So if you have questions for Eli or just general questions about the program, please put them in the comments, because we're here for you. We're doing this live for a reason. We really want to engage with you about DNRS. But yeah, Eli, can you share a little bit about, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is not only because you've been doing the program twice as long as me, but you've done a lot of research too, like around the limbic system, what our friend Sarah calls good old limby. And I would just love to hear a little bit more about, from your perspective, how the program works, like scientifically.
Yeah, great. So basically what's going on in the brain, and I guess I want to preface this with that right now we seem to know really well what works and how to fix it, and we don't have exactly like the imaging and the testing to know 100% for sure exactly what's going on in the brain. And so this is kind of what we've narrowed it down to, and my guess is that this is probably very accurate, and we just don't know. We don't know 100% of the picture. We probably have 50, 60, 70% of the picture.
We just don't have the data to like prove it, right?
Yeah, because I mean, this is on the cutting edge of what we understand about the brain, what we understand about the body, and its potential reach is incredible. So in essence, those of us with things like chronic pain or sensory sensitivities, whether that be light, sound, smells, electrical hypersensitivities, those kinds of things, chronic fatigue, all of that stuff and more. You can find a full list. Also, retrainingthebrain.com is where DNRS is at. You can also just Google search DNRS.
I'll include a link in the comments too.
Awesome, thank you. In essence, there's a part of our brain, and potentially probably multiple parts of it, that aren't working properly, and the limbic system in particular is what we think is impaired or maybe even potentially damaged. So what's happening, the limbic system is the center for a bunch of our functions, but it's one of the oldest parts of the brain, and it houses our fight or flight response. It's the part of the brain that encodes memory, short-term memory into long-term memory. It is how we perceive, its senses, its our autonomic functions like our heartbeat and sexual arousal and hunger, right? All of those kinds of things.
Lots of important stuff.
Lots of very important stuff that keep us going. And what we think is going on is that this part of our brain is damaged, and not damaged necessarily by a physical blow, but it could be something like a virus. It could be bacterial. It could be, trauma, actual physical trauma to the brain. It can be, emotional trauma. Anything that puts the brain in a specifically very stressed state, not only just stress, but like something like losing a parent when you're young or something like that can change how the brain functions. And so for something specifically like MCS, multiple chemical sensitivities, that's the one that, I mean, this is like, it's kind of the breakthrough for these types of sensitivities and these types of illnesses, where our brain, the limbic system, which is perceiving things to be a threat or not, basically gets overwired. And that is on the basis of neuroplasticity, that our brain is inherently able to change itself through experiences. So when a child or a veteran comes back from a war-torn country and they're in combat and they're having some serious problems, that's as a result of the brain attempting to protect this person. A veteran will hear a pop of a firecracker and it will experience it like as if it were a gunshot. And that's the brain attempting to protect itself from being harmed. And so it's encoding, right? That's specifically the hippocampus, encodes this short-term memory, this, oh my gosh, I have to remember that this thing is threatening to my well-being, to my life. I'm going to make that something that I remember forever. And so with something like a mold exposure, with what I had, my brain did actually have an exposure to something that was really hard on the body. Mold is really tough on the body. It's really tough on the brain. And as a result, anything that I was smelling, anything that I was breathing in was being associated with this toxic substance that I was breathing in. And so anywhere I went, smelling a cigarette or walking through a neighborhood, smelling the exhaust fumes of dryers and dryer sheets and stuff like that, my brain was picking that out as something that was associated with mold. Like, oh my gosh, this thing is inherently toxic and is going to seriously harm us. And then, the full body reaction with inflammation and,
it's basically like danger.
Exactly. And this can be the same process, right? When we have this overwiring in the limbic system, this same process can happen with food. The same process can happen with light and with sound and any sensory information coming in to our body through any of our senses. I know people that couldn't be touched with a feather because it was as if they were being cut on their hand. It was such an intense sensation. And so this part of the brain is not functioning properly at all, right? So we have this neuroplasticity, we're able to learn, and our brain is able to change itself and adapt to experiences. And our brain is so good at attempting to protect us. It really is, right? I mean, you think about like what is more important, having a pleasant smell of this dryer sheet, or if my brain thinks that it's going to kill me, that it goes, yeah, that thing's going to kill you. You need to get away. I'm going to send all the signals that you need to hear to run. Keep yourself away from that. And what's really difficult with something like this, whether it be MCS or something like anxiety or chronic fatigue, when it is limbic system impairment, this part of the brain not working properly, when we are further isolating ourselves, when we are not exposing ourselves skillfully to these what aren't actually noxious stimuli, right? It's like our brain is perceiving it as like an 80 out of 100 on the threat level when it's actually like a 0.25 because some of the chemicals that are around us aren't good. We're actually reinforcing the process in the brain, and we're teaching our brains to go, okay, yeah, this thing is bad, and I really do need to stay away from it. Oh, that was a proper signal, brain. Thank you, brain. That signal made sense. We need to reinforce that. We're going to learn that behavior. We're going to learn that response. And so, in part, what DNRS is doing, it's based on neuroplasticity. It's based on this neutral law. Neutral meaning it's not necessarily good or bad, because clearly for those of us who do have some form of brain impairment, it didn't work out so well for us. It caused a bunch of stuff to not be working very well. We also know that we can actually make that go away. Not that we remove our limbic system, but that we can kind of de-wire it and not have it be as so taking up so much real estate, as it were. Yeah. Do you want me to go into specifics about like what we do in DNRS and we can't share the exact the process of it, but like kind of why it works and why it works for that part of the brain.
Yeah, well, I guess I know people are curious as to like what it is. Can you give us kind of like a very vague, brief outline, and then kind of like how what it is rewires the brain?
I'll do my best. Yeah, exactly. I get excited, like all of this, like I want to stop people on the street and tell them about this stuff. So I'll do my best to kind of encapsulate it quickly. In essence, DNRS is, again, working on this principle that our brains are able to change themselves for better or for worse. And what we're deciding to do is to rewire our brain to function properly. So there are a number of elements to the program. One of them is called doing rounds, and that's like the specific 1 hour per day step-by-step process that you go through. That would be, of course, something that you would learn when you buy the program. It's not something that I'm able to share right now. As well as we are staying away from as many stressors as possible, something that they call staying in the training zone. And we are all day long. It's amazing how much time I've spent doing this. We're redirecting improper messages of the brain. So improper message, again, is an example of today. I finished cleaning and man, I was just really tired. I was really tired. And I know that I got like just over 8 hours of sleep last night. I actually have all of the energy that I need. This is just my brain. It's my brain assessing things improperly. I don't actually have a lack of energy. You know, if I needed to rest, I would. I do that. But this is a moment where I'm seeing that, yeah, my brain is telling me that I'm tired, but I actually have the rest that I need. I have eaten good food, and I have all of that. I have everything all the resources that I need. So I'm gonna keep working, and I'm gonna do it gently and sweetly and be kind to my brain. But we are constantly catching when we have these misfirings in our brain and redirecting them. And there's a very specific process for that. And what this is doing, in a sense, is kind of, if we can think of different parts of the brain, or as the brain in some ways as a muscle. It's something that we can exercise, and just like a muscle, if you use it, it gets stronger, and if you don't, it gets smaller. Yes, muscles. And so, in a sense, we are attempting to, one aspect of the program is not use the muscle that is the limbic system, specifically around fight or flight responses to things. And that actually prunes away, they call it pruning in neuroscience, prunes away the neural connections, neural connections that are keeping us in the state of, experiencing the set of symptoms that we're experiencing.
So it's like the overwiring is like an overgrown bush, and you're like pruning. It's kind of, it's maybe more so like you're not planting, you're no longer allowing your brain to plant the seeds that bush becomes. It's like I like to think of it as a farming metaphor. I really like that. Whatever we're focusing our attention on, our brain is going to do more of. Right. And when we are focusing on our symptoms, and we're focusing on how we need to keep ourselves safe, or we need to not expend a bunch of energy, and how am I going to allot my energy? I really overdid it. Now I'm going to have to rest for 2 days. All of that is reinforcing that this is actually true, that this is what we need to be doing. When we have a limbic system impairment, that's not necessarily the case. And that I'm not saying that I'm going to go work in a chemical factory now. I'm going to move into a moldy basement room somewhere. Like, I'm not suggesting that we actually put ourselves in risky situations. However, it is completely safe for me to walk into a random restaurant or store and be fine, because almost everyone else is. So we're teaching our brain that by, I walk into a place and I can smell something, and the brain starts going off and going, fire alarm, nope, we gotta get out of here, and I just very sweetly let it know that I'm not interested in that reaction. And
It's wild. It slowly but surely goes away. You know, like I'm inside my mom's place right now, and that's proof. Before, there's no chance that I would have been able to do this. Yeah, this is amazing. Through focused conscious thought, we're able to manipulate matter in our brain. We're able to, just by thinking, and here's the trick, it doesn't even have to be something that is actually happening in the real world. Just by envisioning something, our brain can experience it. There are a bunch of really cool studies about people learning to play piano. One set actually practices it for 2 weeks, a single scale. The other one learns it once and they only practice it mentally, and they come out at virtually the same level of mastery. You know, wild stuff. Through just conscious thought, focused conscious thought, we are able to manipulate matter. That's I think, maybe check Merriam-Webster's dictionary, but I think that's the definition for magic. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. By thinking of something, we can alter something in the real world.
I mean, it certainly feels magical.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And it feels so good when you're doing the practice.
Yeah.
Not always, but when it's rocking, it's rocking. Man.
Yeah, and I have an echo, so I'm trying to make sure that's not a thing. Okay, I think that's gone. What would you say to someone who's curious how DNRS differs from just like positive psychology? I think I talk to people all the time and they're like, yeah, like my mom tells me to just think positive, but that doesn't work for me. Like, how would you explain that DNRS is different from that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm really wary of positive psychology because it doesn't acknowledge what's true a lot of the time. I guess that's the association that I have with it. There's a really great meme of I don't remember what cartoon it's from, but it's like a dog sipping a coffee cup in a room that is like this cartoon dog that in a room that's on fire, and it is going like, I'm fine. That's kind of what I think about positive thinking. And DNRS has some elements of that, but it is distinct in that what we are using is tried and true scientifically based processes to prune away or get rid of these overwired areas of our brain. And so it's not necessarily that we act like everything's fine all the time, in the same vein of that we are atrophying a muscle, that we're letting it get weak. Atrophy mean weaker, being weak, becoming weaker. It's that we're consistently interrupting the neural activity in the limbic system around fight or flight in particular. And so it's not as much like, it's fine, it's not happening, it's fine, it's not happening. It's right, it's fine, everything's all good. It's more so like, yeah, there's that thing happening again. It's a recognition. There's that thing happening again, and I'm consciously choosing to not engage with it right now. And specifically, this is during the retraining period. This is not for forever. Right. I'm deciding not to allow that neural activity to happen right now because I need to heal my brain. And that is the opposite of healing my brain. So that, anything that produces that fight or flight response, like watching a horror movie, or a really grotesque, playing a grotesque video game, or of course having real deal like life situations that are super stressful and severe financial stress or divorce or breakups and stuff like that is really hard. And again, what they call the training zone, that's actually been one of the things that has been the most challenging for me of the program, is learning how to be authentic within my training zone, and training zone being what I'm allowing myself to fully experience, rather than catching it as a thought or as a mental or neural process that's not in support of my health, while telling the truth and being authentic about what is true. Because like physiologically, I am having this experience. I'm smelling this thing and whoa, my body's full on doing it, right? The results are there in my body. that can be true, and at the same time I can say, and I'm not willing to let that run the show. And slowly but surely it goes away.
Thank you so much for making that distinction for us, Eli. It's huge, very clear. Well, we touched on it a little bit, but can you say a little bit more about just what DNRS can treat? I mean, obviously it's treating a lot of things for you, but I think there's even some things that aren't on your list that people are healing with DNRS.
Yeah, I think the best way to see that is to go to retrainingthebrain.com. They have a list there, and particularly to take the self-assessment questionnaire. But again, all sensory sensitivities, I have a couple written down: food sensitivities, PTSD, anxiety and depression, difficulties with mold, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. And I actually know a person who was diagnosed with, it's an autoimmune disease that affects the nervous system that, I can't remember the name of it right now. But she was having to walk with a cane, and she doesn't have to do that anymore. So I know, I've known some people who have treated things like Crohn's disease and some things like that, and have seen, and have seen some results, because that's the body attacking itself, right? It's like we are restructuring and teaching our brain to operate properly.
Yeah.
And so it can work for a bunch of really cool stuff. Not really cool stuff. It's really cool that it can work for things that aren't seemingly directly related to like brain retraining.
Yeah. Also, it seems to be healing stuff that our understanding up until now has been that those things cannot be healed. I think that's one of the most exciting parts about it. Like something like fibro, right? I mean, I operated under that diagnosis for so long, and the doctors usually just hand you some drugs and say, good luck, and like, how exciting is it that those people could experience a whole different way of living?
Oh man. It's the best news of the century, in my opinion, in terms of healing. This is breakthrough stuff that through our own work and our own determination and learning a process like this, that we can shift how our body even just reacts to substance. I mean, when we are operating well, when our brain is operating optimally, our genes are functioning differently. They call it epigenetics. Our genetic expression, the expression of our genes, literally changes. So for people with genetic disorders, those genes can express themselves differently to not have as severe of symptoms or to have very few symptoms.
It's so freaking cool.
It's super cool. It's super cool. And it's through conscious thought. Like, wild. I mean, that's one thing that I think is really empowering for me, is that I'm not required to take a pill for the rest of my life, or no nothing on anyone who does. Like also, it just excites me so much that I don't have to be dependent on a substance to like not even really heal me, but just like keep me okay, right? To just try to kind of keep me baseline. That I'm able to shift this myself through a ton of hard work. Like that's the thing. I guess that that's one of the unique parts of this program. It's the gift and the curse, right? Like, if you don't do it, if you don't practice all day, every day, things aren't going to change. That's the truth. And
when you say all day, you're talking about catching the.
Thanks. It's not as intimidating as I may have made it out to be. Thank you for pointing that out.
Every day.
I do nothing but train my brain. I haven't seen friends in 6 months. No, it's that when I'm getting these shitty messages, my brain's sending me stuff that is not worth my time and is not supportive of my health, that I'm catching that and redirecting it. And then doing the 1 hour per day. And the 1 hour per day can be broken up. I have friends who do it in 10-minute chunks. I know people who, at the beginning when it was really hard for them, were doing it in 5, 6, 7-minute chunks. I find that I start the day off with a half an hour, and it's unreal how differently I'm experiencing life. Like, not only around the chemical sensitivity stuff, I can pretty much go wherever I want to go. You know, I'm like, I still have a ways to go again. You know, there's still rewiring to be done, and I'm able to travel. Like I've gone on trips to New York, and I've gone on trips to Chicago, and I've visited. You know, I've stayed in places that I didn't know were going to be okay or not. Like that's huge. And I smell different. It's so cool. I used to have this like strong body odor, and it kind of goes in and out, but man, I just smell like a yummy man sometimes now. It's really great. Rather than this like really strong, gross body odor. I have way more energy overall. My mental clarity has gone up a bunch. I'm able to learn things. God, the amount. So a large part of the program, I'll do just a tiny bit more science here. How are we doing on time?
We're good.
Awesome. I'll do a little bit more science here. Again, the hippocampus encodes from short-term into long-term memory. And one of the ways that it does that is through heightened emotional states. So when I am super duper scared because I'm in a legit dangerous situation, my brain goes, yep, heightened emotions, holy wow, we're making that into a long-term memory because we need to keep ourselves safe from whatever that just was.
Right,
okay?
right.
The same thing can happen with positive emotions. And so one of the things that we're doing is, and it's so much fun, oh my goodness, like I'm spending much of the day reliving some of the best moments, some of my favorite moments of my life. And what that's doing in conjunction with exposure-based therapy. So I'm smelling a stinky candle, or I'm thinking about a thought that really produces a strong reaction for me. And I am going into this rounds where I am basically reshaping my brain's reaction to whatever it is that I just exposed myself to. And something, if it's just a thought, it's not an actual exposure necessarily, but it's so dope. So through positive emotions, I am encoding that this thing is totally fine. I don't have to worry about it. It's all good. Brain, you can react differently now. And it does. And like, I'm a goofball again a lot of the time. Not that I ever lost that completely, but like, man, there are times where I've flirted with people and haven't felt completely anxious about it. Like there are so many moments, it's hard to describe, that I'll come out of an interaction or I'll finish doing something and I'll go, oh my God, that would have been so different 6 months ago or 2 years ago or 8 years ago. Like there have been moments where I've never experienced doing life this way ever.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That's so huge.
Ease, so much more ease. I think that's if I could encapsulate what I'm experiencing overall, is so much more ease. Life has just gotten so much easier. And as a result, so many things open up, right?
So great. Yeah, I appreciate too what you said, Eli, about your personality. That's something that's happened for me too. Like I got in a bike crash 5 years ago, and I feel like I haven't been myself since then until DNRS. Like I just had this moment where I was like I'm me again.
Let's go. So good.
And, yeah, like the thing about being funnier again and like sense of humor, like I've totally had that experience too, and that's like almost the best part.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Well, we got a question. How can you tell when it's a pop and when to push through? It's from Meredith.
Great. Thanks for asking that, Meredith. For context, a pop is part of specifically DNRS language that you would learn if you decided to take it. And a pop is, I'll kind of translate it, one of those improper messages, one of those messages that don't make sense, that aren't working for you. And the question is whether or not to push through it. How can you tell when it's a pop?
Yeah.
Great. How can I tell when it's a pop and when to push through?
So I assume an example of that would be like, when should you actually rest versus tell yourself that that's an improper thought that you don't need because you got 8 hours of sleep?
Yep. The really the answer is that's super subjective. It really depends moment by moment, day by day, what you're experiencing. But for something like today, for example, I saw that my brain was sending me this message that I was really, really tired and that I should just go be in bed for the next 2 hours. And I knew that I had eaten, I had slept, I was fully hydrated, right? All of these things, I was good. And so I know in that moment that, yeah, this is my brain doing that thing. And, and sometimes some of the ways that I might work with that skillfully is to go, yeah, my brain's doing this thing. I'm going to give myself 7 minutes and I'm going to text some of my friends back that I haven't gotten back to them yet, or like whatever, and just rest. And then boom, I get up and I'm doing my dishes, I'm cleaning my house. And it's that we can always be gentle and sweet with ourselves, even while quote unquote pushing through. Even in these moments where, I have very, very little energy, I'm always taking some small sweet action that is moving me forward, either on my healing path or in building the website for my business or doing the vlog that I'm doing or whatever it is. It's really important to keep that momentum going and to keep moving.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying about small sweet actions. I think that we forget sometimes that that's a way that we can move forward.
Yeah. And what's amazing is that when we, and I've been learning this particularly through, I believe it's Rick Hanson's book, Hardwiring Happiness, that when we celebrate those moments, even the small ones, even if, there were days when, the only thing that I would get done was laundry or feeding myself, really, and I've learned to celebrate that. It can be the smallest of stuff. Like, wow, I just texted those 3 friends back that I haven't texted back for a few days. Oh man, doesn't that feel good? And sticking with that experience for 10, 15, 20 seconds of going, I'm really proud of myself. Like, even with these circumstances, it feels so good to have like shown up to these friendships, and I love these people. And we do that, we're activating the neural pathways that we want to be working. We're actually healing our brains, for those of us with limbic system impairment, when we do that kind of stuff. And so I think in particular, this is a bit aside, that's not necessarily exactly what Meredith was asking, but like, when we're taking these small sweet actions, when we're having a tough time, when we're, our energy is lower and we have just less bandwidth because we're dealing with a bunch of other situations that people who don't experience what we're experiencing, they don't have to do, right? I think really learning to celebrate those little moments, to be proud of ourselves for everything that we do, because, for those of us who have some form of limbic system impairment or some form of chronic illness, like doing the dishes is rad as fuck. Excuse my French. It's like, that's awesome. That's something to be celebrated because we're getting up and we're doing it.
Yeah. Well, we got another question.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. What's the difference between Gupta and DNRS?
I can't say. I don't know enough about the Gupta program, and I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I simply don't know.
Just for folks who, Gupta is another brain retraining program that people have used successfully to heal from all different kinds of things. So worth looking into as well. Again, I don't know that much about it either, but I think it's always worth researching both and seeing which one resonates with you.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and I guess this is maybe a good spot to say that neither Noel and I are paid by DNRS. We're not selling it necessarily. I am like, I want to be paid by DNRS at some point. Like, I'm not benefiting from it right now, but this is the scope of this work, the potential that it has. Like, I want to bring this into the world, and so that's really the intention for Noel and I, is we're seeing significant changes for ourselves, and we want people to have access to that.
That is the truth. So Eli, tell us about your vlog.
Oh, I have a vlog. It's called The Story of Eli. It's on YouTube. You can search The Story of Eli, and hopefully it will pop up. Maybe we can put will you put it in the notes? Thanks, Helmi. I wanted to share my experience more with the folks around me and other folks in particular who are doing DNRS or other brain retraining programs, because I wanted to consistently be putting myself in a state where I am reflecting, really looking at my experience, how I could be stepping my healing game up, things that I'm doing really well, tips that I might share with people, all for the benefit of those who are watching it and going, man, I'm having a tough day today. Like, what might I learn here? And I've gotten really great feedback. It's also, the thing about neuroplasticity-based work is that every person on the planet, brain that I acted with has a brain that sends them messages that suck sometimes. You go up on stage in front of 500 people and you're speaking and your body is telling you like, no, you're going to die. You better not do that. Like, full on this will be the end of you. Why are you doing this? So the vlog is about not only healing from limbic system impairment, but also just like how to be in relationship to a brain that has some old hardware in it. So yeah, the story of Eli.
What a contribution. I'm so excited that you're doing that for folks.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, Elizabeth just had a
it looks
question.
like we may have lost Eli temporarily. I'll see if he comes back. Do folks have any additional questions on DNRS while we're waiting? Please put them in the chat.
Can you see me, Noah?
Yeah, and I just want to echo what Eli said. Like, I'm 3 months into the program and I've just had an incredible experience and I have new breakthroughs every week. And that's primarily why I've been pushing it so hard. Not pushing it, but just like telling so many people about it. It's because of the results. So I think that this probably goes for Eli too, and I'll put a note in the comments if this isn't true, but if folks have additional questions and want to reach out to either Eli or myself, like please message us on Facebook, or I'll include Eli's vlog if you want to contact him through YouTube. But we're just so excited for folks to have access to this program and to just know that it exists, that it's an option, a tool that you can use in your healing journey. But I want to thank everyone so much for joining us tonight. Lisa, Meredith, Elizabeth, Mara. It's been so nice to be with you all, and happy healing. Talk soon. Oh, and I wanted to say the Healcast program in general is something that I do periodically where I interview different holistic practitioners about different healing protocols. You can learn more at noeljanka.com/Healcast. And this is also something that I don't get any money for this or anything. I'm putting it out there so folks can just have more information about what options there are in their healing. And so I do accept donations. If this is something that you appreciate and you want to see it continue, you can make a donation on the Healcast page too. And I will also include that in the comments. But much love to you all, and have a good evening and be as well as possible. Take good care. Bye.